Okay, continuing on with Lab 1 of AutoCAD, we want to start on this new object up here, and we want to start in the lower left hand corner and make that 0, 0. So I'm going to go to the line command and again type in 0, 0. Now, try that again. And I can either go to the right or go straight up, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go to the right, and that is a distance of 0.875 in the x, 0. It's there, you can't see it because of the XY coordinate system, but if you zoom out enough, you'll see that it is out there. Okay, so we'll actually zoom it in. Now I want to draw this line. Again, like in the other part of this lab, I don't know the length of that line distance this way. I do know it's 1.125 up, but that doesn't help me. I can't use a y-coordinate value and an angle. I do know the angle is 60, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that. And again, I want relative, so it's shift and a 2. Relative, and you have to hold that shift key down to make that work. Relative to that, I want to go just make up a number. I'm going to say 0.75 in the x, or excuse me, 0.75 on the length. Angle, shift, hold the shift key down and hit the comma. 60, enter. And I'm entering again to get out of that command. That's all I can do with that line. So I hit the enter key again, and that repeats the command. And I snap to the endpoint and clicked. And then I want to go straight up, so 0 in the x, comma, and the distance on that is 3.125. Enter. Okay, now it's there. I just need to pan down. Alright, then the next thing I want to do is it says I want to go 1 inch over. Well, relative to that spot, 1 inch, comma, 0 in the y. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is go up to this corner, as we see in the drawing over on the left. So, to get there, it says that I need to go, I'm setting it 1 inch over, so if I remember that, I'm good. And I need to go a total height of 4.5. On the drawing, it says 2 times 4.5. That means from this bottom to here is 4.5, and from this bottom to here is 4.5. So that's what the 2 times means. The 2x means it happens at 2 different places. Much like on the 3.125 over here says 2 times. What happens once here and once here. So to get that number, I can type in 1, because I'm 1 inch over on the x, comma, 4.5. And that's putting it where it needs to be. Now, according to the drawing, the distance from where I'm at now to the distance where I want to be is 1.625. So I'll say relative to that, 1.625, comma, 0. Don't want to go anywhere on the y. Then according to the drawing, I want to go relative to that point, so at 0 in the x minus 0.375 in the y. Okay, now I could draw a line over, but I don't know really how long that line is, so I'm just going to hit enter to get out of that command. And agree or disagree, everything from this line down to here, if you follow back there, everything down to here is exactly the same on the left as it is the right. Well, let's agree on that. And what we can do is use this mirror command up here. Okay, now, and my screen is compact, so all these look a little different than yours over here, but everything on the left hand side and the draw and the modify ribbons are exactly the same. So I want to use the mirror command, and I want to pick all these objects. Now, I can pick these objects, and I'm going to pick this line down here at the bottom too. Okay, and I'll go in there then, and in fact, when I drew this earlier, I mirrored this over, and this V shape is wrong, so I'll have to fix that. So I'm going to mirror all these. I'm done picking the objects. It'll allow me to keep picking objects if you look down here in the command line. I'm done with that, so I have to hit enter. Now it says specify the first point in the mirror line. Well, from this end over to this end is 6.75, so we have to take half of that. Basically what we're doing is we're setting up a hinge point for if I take this and hinge it over to the right, where do I want to pivot? What line do I want to pivot about? So I really want to go 3.375 on the x, comma 0. So there's my first point. And now I'm going to have to define the rest of that mirror line. Well, what we can do, we could actually type in at 0 in the x and some y value and we'd be fine. But what I want to do is use this ortho down here and note, there's ortho, and it's the F8 function key. So I can click on that, and then I can only draw in 90-degree increments. And realize you can hinge this either way. But I really need to hinge it this way, and I can go above or below, it doesn't matter. You're just setting up a line, an imaginary line for a hinge point. Now the next thing it asks me, do you want to erase the source objects? If I say yes, this goes away and we have another version of it over here. I really want that to be no. No is in the greater than, less than sign, so that's what, if you hit enter, that's what it will accept. So I'll hit enter, and there's the other side. Now this line here is not exactly like this line if you look at the dimensions on the drawing. So, but what I can do, I could right now repeat that command. Oh, no I can't, sorry. One step ahead of myself. So what I want to do next is I want to draw this line to the proper length. Well, I've already got the line. So what I want to do is use the lengthen command. And that's this button right here. Now how did I get there? I went in and I hit the caret on the modifier. You could actually hit anywhere in there. And there's the lengthen command. Now if you look at the bottom, lengthen will let you do it by a delta. That's how much you want it to change. Delta means change. You can do it by a percentage. If you, let's say you wanted to make it 10% longer, you would make it 110. If you wanted to make it 10% less, it'd be 90. You can go to a total, and when you go to a total, that specifies exactly how much you want that line to be. And then you can go dynamic, where you can just click on it and stretch it or make it smaller, just in a dynamic mode. You're really not controlling the distance on that. I want total, so I'm going to hit T, or hit that total, and the distance on that needs to be 0.965, I believe it is. I'll type that in, hit enter, and it says select the object. Now you have to pick the end of the object that you want to either grow or get smaller. I don't know if it's actually going to grow in this case, so I want to pick this end right here. So if you pick that, watch what happens. Okay, and it lengthened it, and I just hit escape. If you're not sure about that, you can go to the utilities and hit measure, and you can go from this end to this end, and it tells you that sure enough, delta x is 965 and the distance is 965. So we're good with that. Now then, I draw a line from this endpoint. I need to turn ortho off, so I'm going to turn that off. I don't have to turn that off, but it's just better. Relative to that, just pick a number. Let's go 2 inches. Angle. Okay, now the drawing says that these angles are going to be 45 degrees. So I need to go 90 plus 45, which is 135. Well, neither one of these lines were drawn to the proper length. Oh, and by the way, let's go back up to the top here. We can finish this up just by putting a line from endpoint to endpoint. Again, make sure your object snaps are on. They're down here. Okay, and right now I right click on that, and I've got my endpoint and my center points are all I've got on. Okay, so let's get these to the proper length. So what I want to do is, again, offset. According to the drawing, if I offset this line up 1.125, I type that in, hit enter. Sorry about that. Type that in and hit enter. Okay, and I need to pick the object and where I want it to go. Enter. Enter again. According to the drawing, I need to go up 0.875. So I'll type in 0.875, enter. I'll pick this line this time and pick up here. Okay, now based on what we did in the previous portion of this lab, it would be probably easier just to go to fillet, pick this line, and pick that line. Enter repeats the command, pick this portion of this line and that line. And I'm done with that, so I'll hit escape, pick this line and hit the delete key. Now then, what I want to do is mirror these two lines, and I'll have those two V shapes. So I'll go to the mirror command again. I want to mirror this object, enter, from this endpoint, again turn ortho back on, to this point down here, enter. Enter again repeats the command. I want to go to this line, enter, from this endpoint, and I can go up here, this endpoint, boom. Those are done. I'm going to turn ortho back off. I just don't like that on all the time. Draw a line from this end to this end. Now, as a check for that, if you want, you can go in there and measure, and based on this, watching this video, you can tell that that line has a distance of 1.861, and that should just be a delta x. There should be no delta y there. If so, then you're not getting the endpoints, or something was off on your mirror. Now I'm going to hit save again. I've got all that saved, or all that information created and forgot to save. So that would be gone if it booted me out of the system for some reason. Well, next we want to do the hexagon. Now you don't have to develop this hexagon. There's a command for that, and it looks like that when you start. It's a rectangle. However, the rectangle hides one called Polygon, so you can create something that has more sides than 4. By default, it comes up to 4. Down here in the lower left-hand corner, we want to type in 6 and hit enter. And then it says specify the center point. Well, according to the drawing, you go over 3.375, comma, and you go up 2.25, enter. Okay, now nothing happens, but you've got inscribed or circumscribed. What happens there is, when you create this hexagon, it uses a circle to determine the size of that hexagon. Now, if it's inscribed, the hexagon will be inside a circle. So it actually goes through the circle, that the imaginary circle we use goes through these points. Okay, that means the circle would be inscribed or inside the circle that we're going to use. We're not using that number this time. If that were the case, we would have the dimension that would be from here to here, or across the corners. We want to use one that the hexagon is circumscribed or drawn around the circumference of the circle, the imaginary circle. So to do that, then the circle would fit tangent to the midpoint of all these lines. Now that means that we're getting what's called across the flats dimension, and on your drawing you'll see that that is what the dimension is, and it's 1.25. So we want circumscribed, so we can just click on that, or you could type in C, and you can see where that dimension's coming from now. Now, I'm not a big fan of this, the way AutoCAD does it, but that's the way they do it, so we live with it. It asks you for the radius. In mechanical drawings, normally we go for the diameter, if you will, because we want to go, what's called across the flats. In mechanical, that matters to us because typically that's on a bolt or a nut, and we need to know what size wrench to use on that. So that's the concept there. So the radius is half of that 1.25. Okay, so I don't need my calculator. Half of 1 inch is a half, and half of 0.25 is 0.125. So if we add 0.5 and 0.125, we end up with 0.625, don't we? Hit enter, and your hexagon is in. And then of course I'd want to hit the save button again. And actually that